Today we're reading Where the Sidewalk Ends, Poems and Drawings by Shel Silverstein. So this is like part 4, I think, of this one. So here we go. Hat. Teddy said it was a hat. So I put it on. Now Dad is saying, where the heck's the toilet plunger gone? My rules. If you want to marry me, here's what you'll have to do. You must learn how to make a perfect chicken dumpling stew. And you must sew my holy socks and soothe my troubled mind. And develop the knack for scratching my back and keep my shoes spotlessly shined. And while I rest, you must rake up the leaves. And when it is hailing and snowing, you must shovel the walk and be still when I talk. And hey, where are you going? Oh, have you heard? Oh, have you heard? It's time for vacations. I think someone put salt in your tea. They're giving us 11 months vacations and Florida has sunk into the sea. Oh, have you heard? The president has measles. The principal has just burned down the school. Your hair is full of ants and purple weasels. April Fools. Warning. Inside everybody's nose, lives a sharp-toothed snail. So if you stick your finger in, he may bite off your nail. Stick it farther up inside, and he may bite your ring off. Stick it all the way, and he may bite the whole darn thing off. The unicorn. A long time ago, when the earth was green, and there was more kinds of animals than you'd ever seen, and they run around free while the world was being born, and the loveliest of all was the unicorn. There was green alligators and long-necked geese. There were humpy-bumpy camels and chimpanzees. There were cats and rats and elephants, but sure as you're born, the loveliest of all was the unicorn. But the Lord seen some sinning, and it caused him pain. He says, stand back, I'm gonna make it rain. He says, hey, brother Noah, I'll tell you what to do. Go and build me a floating zoo. And you take 2 alligators and a couple of geese and 2 humpy-bumpy camels and 2 chimpanzees and 2 cats and rats and elephants. But sure as you're born, no, Noah, don't you forget my unicorn. Now Noah was there, and he answered the callin', and he finished up the ark just as the rain started fallin', and he marched in the animals 2 by 2, and he called out as they went through. Hey, Lord, I got your 2 alligators, and your couple geese, your humpy-bumpy camels, and your 2 chimpanzees. Got your cats and rats and elephants, but Lord, I'm so forlorn, 'cause I just don't see no unicorn. Old Noah looked out through the driving rain, but the unicorns were hiding playing silly games. They were kicking and splashing in the misty morn. Oh, them silly unicorn. Then the goats started goating, and the snakes started snaking, and the elephants started elephanting, and the boat started shaking, and the mouse started squeaking, and the lion started roaring, and everyone bored but the unicorn. I mean, the green alligators and the long-necked geese, the humpy-bumpy camels and the chimpanzees. Noah cried, close the door, 'cause the rain is pouring in, and we just ain't waiting for them unicorn. Oh, pouring. Then the ark started moving, and it drifted with the tide, and the unicorns looked up from the rock and cried, and the water came up and sort of floated them away, and that's why you've never seen a unicorn this day. You'll see a lot of alligators and a whole mess of geese and a humpy-bumpy camel and a lot of chimpanzees. You'll see cats and rats and elephants, but sure as you're born, you're never gonna see no unicorn. A treehouse. A treehouse, a free house, a secret you and me house, a high up in the leafy branches, cozy as can be house. A street house, a neat house, be sure and wipe your feet house is not my kind of house at all. Let's go live in a tree house. The Flying Festoon. Oh, I'm going to ride the Flying Festoon. I'll jump on his back and I'll whistle a tune and I'll fly to the outermost tip of the moon, the Flying Festoon and I. I'm taking a sandwich and a ball and a prune, and we're leaving this evening precisely at noon, for I'm going to fly the Flying Festoon just as soon as he learns how to fly. no difference. Small as a peanut, big as a giant, we're all the same size when we turn off the light. Rich as a sultan, poor as a mite, we're all the same worth when we turn off the light. Red, black, or orange, yellow, or white, we all look the same when we turn off the light. So maybe the way to make everything right is for God to just reach out and turn off the light. Invisible Boy. And here we see the invisible boy in his lovely invisible house, feeding a piece of invisible cheese to a little invisible mouse. Oh, what a beautiful picture to see. Will you draw an invisible picture for me? Tight hat. I tried to tip my hat to Miss McGaffrey. I never should have put it on so tight, 'cause it wouldn't come off my head and my neck got stretched instead. That's what you get for trying to be polite. Peanut butter sandwich. I'll sing you a poem of a silly young king who played with the world at the end of a string, and he only loved one single thing, and that was just a peanut butter sandwich. His scepter and his royal gowns, his regal throne and golden crowns, were brown and sticky from the mounds, and dripping from each peanut butter sandwich. His subjects all were silly fools, for he had passed a royal rule, that all that they could learn in school was how to make a peanut butter sandwich. He would not eat his sovereign steak, he scorned his soup and kingly cake, and told his courtly cooks to bake an extra thick peanut butter sandwich. And then one day he took a bite and started chewing with delight, but found his mouth was stuck quite tight from his last bite of peanut butter sandwich. His brother pulled, his sister pried, his wizard pushed, his mother cried, "My boy committed suicide from eating his last peanut butter sandwich." The dentist came, the royal docked, the royal plumber banged and knocked, but still his jaws stayed tightly locked. Oh, darn that sticky peanut butter sandwich. The carpenter, he tried with pliers. The telephone man tried with wires. The firemen, they tried with fires, but couldn't melt the peanut butter sandwich. With ropes and pulleys, drills and coils, with steam and lubricating oils, for 20 years of tears and toil, they fought that awful peanut butter sandwich. Then all his royal subjects came. They hooked his jaws in grappling chains and pulled both ways with might and main against that stubborn peanut butter sandwich. Each man and woman, girl and boy, put down their plows and pots and toys and pulled there until, crack! Oh, joy! They broke right through that peanut butter sandwich. A puff of dust, a screech, a squeak, the king's jaw opened with a creak, and then, in voice so faint and weak, the first words that they heard him speak were, "How about a peanut butter sandwich?" Lazy Jane. Lazy, 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 lazy Jane. She wants a drink of water, so she waits and waits and waits and waits and waits for it to rain. The edge of the world. Columbus said the world is round. Don't you believe a word of that? For I've been down to the edge of the world. Oh, Columbus said the world was round. Don't you believe a word of that? For I've been down to the edge of the world, sat on the edge where the wild wind whirled, peeked over the ledge where the blue smoke curls, and I can tell you, boys and girls, the world is flat. And for some reason, people actually believe that, which is ridiculous. The world is not flat. Science, man, science. Santa and the reindeer. "This is the hour," said Santa Claus. "The bells ring merrily." And then on his back he slung his pack, and into his sleigh climbed he. "Oh, Dancer, oh, Prancer, oh, Donner and Blitzen, on Comet, on Cupid," cried. And all the reindeers leapt but one, and that one stood silently. He had pulled the sleigh for 1,000 years and never a word he spoke. Now he stood in the snow and whispered low, "Oh, what do you have for me?" "I have games and toys for girls and boys," said Santa cheerily. The reindeer stood as if made of wood. "But what do you have for me?" "The socks are hung, the bells are rung," cried Santa desperately. The reindeer winked at a falling star. "But what do you have for me?" Then Santa reached into his beard and found a tiny flea, and he put it into the reindeer's ear. And the reindeer said, "For me? Oh, gee!" And into the blue away they flew. Away they flew with the flea. And the moral of this Yuletide tale, you know as well as me. I believe this will be our last page. The Toucan. Tell me who can catch a toucan? Lou can. Just how few can ride the toucan? Two can. What kind of goo can stick you to a toucan? Glue can. Who can write some more about the toucan? You can. The planet of Mars. On the planet of Mars, they have clothes just like ours, and they have the same shoes and the same laces, and they have the same charms and the same graces, and they have the same heads and the same faces, but not in the very same places. All right, that's enough for tonight. Good night. I love you.